We're good. All right. Sorry about that little glitch. I hope you can hear now. We got it rectified, and so shalom to each and every one of you. I hope you guys have experienced an amazing week, half of a week, anyways, up till this point from Shabbat, and certainly some very amazing and interesting things going on. Uh, Elohim said that when sin comes in, he would raise up a standard. And I think that if you would take the right interpretation of that statement, you would see the reason. I posed this question kind of more as a riddle than anything. Uh, the reason that the Torah is becoming very prevalent uh, is because of that. Uh, the word's been lost to us, the truth has been lost to us, rightness has been lost to us. Uh, the Romans did a really good job of confusing the masses. And yes, of course, there are still people out there who are trying to chase the New Testament down so it tell them what's going on at the end of times. Friends, I hate to tell you, but the New Testament was a created document. Uh, so there is a little bit of history in there, but pretty minuscule considering. So, anyways, I'm going to stand on the path that was ancient, which is exactly what Elohim told Jeremiah that his people were to do, was to go back and look for the ancient path. What is that path? Well, I've shown you that the path is the path of walking rightly in front of Elohim. And if you grab a hold of that revelation, you'll begin to see that that's been a hidden message since the beginning of our recorded time anyways. So I hope you guys are grabbing a hold of some of these amazing truths that are being put out there for you. If you are, they'll change your life, and if you're not, then you probably don't have much hope of changing at all. So I hope you guys are paying heed. So we're going to be back in the book of the upright tonight, the book of Jasher, the book of the upright, and we'll pick up in chapter 2, and we'll just go through it and see. There's a lot of different principles here. There's going to be some things that you may pick up on that are different narratives. I think if I was you, I would try not to get as hung up on that as I would get hung up on what principles are being exposed for us. So let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your wonderful love and your mercy. Blessed are you truly, Elohim. I just ask you to be with us. May you open the minds of those people that are desirous, that are hungry for more rightness, those who are desirous to enter into your kingdom. And so I bless you today. I thank you for all your protection and your love and your mercy that you've shown immensely. Amen. All right. Well, we're in chapter 2 of the book of the upright, and we'll jump off. And there's some pieces, some insights maybe. Certainly there are plenty of people who will recognize some apparent discrepancies. That's all wonderful. Unfortunately, in any situation that we all live in now, any discrepancy is a supposition, and I really struggle. I used to be one of those people in Christianity, boy. You know, the New Testament was the solid, firm truth, and God had like put a shroud around it so that he would protect it, and there was no human on earth who could ever possibly corrupt it. Wow, that's obviously not the way Elohim works. I think personally, if you want to know the truth, I think he wants us to be exposed to things that aren't comfortable. He wants us. His word is supposed to. I don't think it's supposed to consternate us, and although sometimes it does, and I don't think it's supposed to confound us, but I do think its purpose is to make us think. And that's why I've said in the past, a weak and a lazy-minded person is not going to go very far with Elohim, because everything he does is about your mind. He doesn't need to fix your body. He needs to fix your mind. And I think oftentimes we forget that. I will tell you that a lot of the things that or at least it appears like, that a lot of the things that are being done with the sky dumping and the pollution that they're putting in our food and our water sources and all of these things that our governments are doing, the bioengineering of a horrible scenario, and it is intentional. I hate to tell you the truth that nobody probably is telling you, but all of these chemicals that are being dumped into our bodies are not accidental. So, unfortunately, we live in a really polluted society. I think you'll see that there's been a time like this once before, at least once before, actually many. But let's go. And it was in the 130th year of the life of Adam upon the earth that he again knew Huah, his woman, and she conceived and bare a son in his likeness and in his image, and she called his name Sheth, saying, because Elohim has appointed me another seed in the place of Havel, for Cain has slain him. Suffice to say that for the rest of his life, it was Cain who slayed his brother. That was, like maybe some of you can relate. Maybe you grew up and you were somebody's brother. Everywhere you went, oh, that's such and such's brother. I lived that nonsense, so this was one of them monikers that followed him around, and I'm sure he liked to get away from the people who knew his parents and knew him, just so he would not have to hear that. But Elohim gave him a son, and his name was Seth, saying, because Elohim has appointed me another seed in the place of Havel, for Cain has slain him. And Sheth lived 105 years, and he begat a son, and Sheth called the name of his son Enosh, saying, because in that time the sons of men began to multiply, and to afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim. So we have here's a thought that I had. Maybe you can ponder on this a bit, because it really is, it's a different way of saying this I've never really heard. But the scripture says prior to Yom Kippur, Elohim expects for us to afflict ourselves. Okay? And this is the first time that I've seen that used necessarily like this in a different context. But look at what it really does say. So, because in that time the sons of men began to multiply, so as they begin to multiply, and to afflict their souls and their hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Elohim. Wow. So, would it not then be very clear to us that sometimes we need to stop and we need to actually do some judging and place some judgment on some things and see if my affliction is coming because of me, or is my affliction becoming because of the environment, the place that I'm around, the people that I'm around? Is it a societal affliction that's putting on, or is it actually affliction that I've brought on myself? Very good thought. That you would probably do quite well to actually spend some time in your quiet time and ponder that thought. But it is quite clear, if that is true, then it is possible for men to put affliction on theirself, and that affliction comes from the sin. And it was in the days of Enosh that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim. They didn't stop. and to increase the anger of Yehovah against the sons of men. And the sons of men went and they served other Elohim, and they forgot Yehovah who had created them in the earth. And in those days the sons of men made images of brass and iron, wood and stone, and they bowed down and they served them. And every man made his Elohim, and they bowed down to them. And the sons of men forsook Yehovah all the days of Enosh and his children, and the anger of Elohim was kindled on account of their works and abominations which they did in the earth. So there again, we could ask ourselves, if we want to put ourselves in the middle of Scripture, we could ask ourselves, is there so much fear in the world because Elohim, there is a consciousness of the anger of Elohim that's about to be poured out once again because of the sins of man? There's some things on here that'll surprise you that look just like a lot of the pictures we're living in. And so they go and they serve other Elohim. Things aren't great. And they forgot Yehovah who had created them in the earth. And in those days the sons of men made images of brass and iron, wood and stone. They bowed down and served them. And every man made his Elohim, and they bowed down to them. And the sons of men forsook Yehovah all the days of Enosh and his children. And the anger of Yehovah was kindled on account of their works and abominations which they did in the earth. So if you want to know how Elohim gets angry, he gets angry by the things that we do down here. Is anybody tracking with me? If you put the picture of the true understanding of the 10 words, if you put those and what that really means, and I think that's somewhere where we're going to spend some time in the near future looking at, because I'm quite sure that the mass majority of people still may not quite totally grasp what that really means. And we'll look at that, and I think you'll be quite shocked, blessed if you see it. Maybe not so if you can't. And Yehovah caused the waters of the river Gihon to overwhelm them, and he destroyed and consumed them, and he destroyed the third part of the earth. Notwithstanding this, the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were yet extended to do evil in the sight of Elohim. A piece you haven't heard about the Gihon, about one of the 4 rivers. You go read the other text about where Eden is at. So, but you'll also notice this is very clear that it only affected a third part of the earth. It wasn't a complete flood. There's actually several stories in antiquity that predate about a flood. And for all of that, they still refused to quit. Where we at, folks? And in those days there were neither sowing nor reaping in the earth, and there was no food for the sons of men, and the famine was very great in those days. I'm telling you, this is a path that we are on. If you don't believe me, that's okay. I don't mind if you don't. But I am telling you, he very clearly told me that a famine is coming. And the seed which they sowed in those days in the ground became thorns, thistles, and briars. For from the days of Adam was this declaration concerning the earth of the curse of Elohim, which he had cursed the earth on account of the sin which Adam sinned before Yehovah. So once again, another one of those nagging little principles it always takes away your positivity when Elohim says, I curse the earth because of your behavior. And it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim and to corrupt their ways that the earth also became corrupt. So Has anybody done much research lately into the different facets that are going on in the growing world and the food supply world? Because if you have, folks, will be dauntingly powerful for you. If you are somebody who is a prepper and a homesteader and you're paying attention to the things that are coming out that our government has been doing to not only our vegetables and not only our meat sources and what the Bill Gateses of the world who want to kill all the cows. I mean, there's places, folks, where they're having mass slaughters of cattle just simply because they fart too much. I promise you, what their global agenda has nothing to do with global warming. It has to do with 100% total mind control. And they know you. They know you. If they give you things that taste good that will kill you, you will eat them because it's more of what you want than what you necessarily need. We don't care about what we need. We care about what we want. And that's a very sad state for a human to get to. But we as a society have accomplished that great feat. And they know it, and they're going to use it to their advantage. So, not only, here's a wonderful little ratio that I see going on. Verse 9 says, and it was when men continued to rebel and transgress. So this isn't just because somebody fell. And it's not in our life either. Listen, Elohim knows if you have fallen, whatever the fall is, if you have fallen and you have gotten back up and you have fallen and you got back up and you've fallen and you got back up and this is a thing inside of you that you constantly fight with, please don't stop fighting. Because the minute that you stop fighting is when you open the door to Elohim's anger against you. I won't say that he finds great joy, although I do believe there is a level of respect he gives to a person who's willing to fight when they're in the middle of a strait. That is to say, if you fall down and you fight with yourself, that's a different picture to Elohim than when you fall down and you just accept it, or justify it, or exonerate it, which is what all the people that I've known most of my life have done about their failings. But you let somebody else fall down and they kick them right in the face. Yeah, you really should listen to that. It's not a blessing. And so it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against Elohim and to corrupt their ways that the earth also became corrupted. So this is as that was a very long-term problem, we are living in the end days of a very long-term problem. It's not just that there's some people. It's not just that God and the Son of God have already lived in Jerusalem. Okay? If you don't know that, go research Vespasian and his son Titus. God and the Son of God. That's where every bit of that language in the New Testament came from. It was talking about him, an emperor of Rome. And Enosh lived 90 years, and he begat Quanan. And Quanan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise, and he had knowledge. It's funny how many generations sometimes have to be jumped and leaped before Elohim will bring one up that is honorable. But, you know, if you look at the billions of people that have lived on this earth, there's really only a handful of people that you would call patriarchs. And not that there weren't a lot of other ones who just were not part of the plan, were never recorded. Of course there is. But the percentage for the quantity of people that have lived and died on this earth, the percentage of righteous people is quite small. And so Quanan grew up, and he was 40 years old. He became wise, and he had knowledge and skill in all wisdom. So he not only had wisdom, we know wisdom comes from Elohim. It is a gift for doing righteousness. Okay? And if you are not righteous, you cannot get wisdom. So what they just said to you without you knowing it is Quanan was a righteous man. And because of righteousness, wisdom came to him and endued him. And because he had wisdom, the spirit of knowledge was given to him also by the Elohim. So I can tell you without any questioning, according to what we all should know, that this man was blessed by Elohim. And skill in all wisdom, so he not only had it, but he knew how to use it. That's also called understanding. And many people lack a lot of understanding. And he reigned over all the sons of men, and he led the sons of men to wisdom and to knowledge, which is, I guess, a part of my personal deal as to why I even do this, to be honest with you. For Canaan was a very wise man, and had understanding in all wisdom, and with his wisdom he ruled over Ruachoth, or he ruled over spirits. So wisdom even gives us, well, I'll tell you, we do at least have some form of a validating principle here, because if you would do any research and study about Shalimah, you would find also the wisest man that ever lived also ruled the spirit realm. And not only Ruachoth, but also devils or demons. And Quanan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth, and that Yehovah would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. So the thing where he destroyed a third of the earth, friends, it's very clear to tell that that was not the thing. That was I would almost tell you that was a harbinger. It was a warning, if you would. Elohim has given us many warnings in the United States that we are headed for a nosedive to destruction if we don't change our ways. And half of this country still can't even figure out that the president that's running it is a mindless moron. Does that give you a little of an idea of why we're headed where we're headed, friends? That's not 1%. That's 50% of America cannot even make a common sense decision about what it is that brought us to this place that all of you guys are complaining about. None of you like the inflation. None of you like the gas prices. All of those things were created, and yet this person is loved. Does anybody wake today? And Quanan knew by his wisdom that Elohim would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth, and that Yehovah would in the latter days bring upon them the waters of the flood. And in those days Quanan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in time to come, and he put them in his treasures. And Quanan reigned over the whole earth, and he turned some of the sons of men to the service of Elohim. So he came, he showed up, he spoke the truth, but only some were willing to listen. And when Quanan was 70 years old, he begat 3 sons and 2 daughters. And these are the names of the children of Quanan. The name of the firstborn was Mahalalel. We've seen this in the book of Joshua. We've seen this in the book of Bereshit. And the name of the firstborn was Mahalalel. The second was Enan, and the third was Mered. And their sisters were Adah and Zillah. These are the 5 children of Quanan that were born to him. And Lamech, the son of Methuselah, became related to Quanan by marriage, and he took his 2 daughters for his women. Yes, it's the first person. It is the establisher of polygamy as being something that is known by Elohim and is in no way spoken against. And Lamech, the son of Methuselah, became related to Canaan by marriage, and he took his 2 daughters for his women. And Adah conceived and bore a son to Lamech, and she called his name Yehovah. And she again conceived and bore a son and called his name Yuval. And Zillah, her sister, was barren in those days and had no offspring. For in those days the sons of men began to transgression against Elohim, and to transgress the commandments which he had commanded to Adam. So here's something that I would like to tell you. Moses did not receive the first Torah. Moses is the first to write the Torah. The Torah had been known. That's what Elohim did with Adam and Uah. Every evening he came down and taught them instructions in how they should live. For in those days the sons of men had begun to transgress against Elohim and to transgress the commandments which he had commanded to Adam, to be fruitful and multiply of the earth. So here's the thing for you, friends. When you think because you believe that a woman has a right to do whatever with her own body and that a child isn't a child until it cries and comes out of the mother's womb, you're actually part of a 5,000 plus year old sect of humans. You are part of a cult. I'll show you. It's obvious if you read those words in context that one of the commands, maybe the only Torah given to Adam, maybe there were no rules. Maybe Adam could have had 40 wives if he had wanted them. Maybe. Nobody knows. It's supposition. You say no, I say yes. You're not wrong and I'm not wrong, right? We do a lot of those suppositions. We say, because that's what I think, that must be the truth. And you'll see in the homilies that Clement struggled with this. He sought wisdom and knowledge, and he went to the most educated people of the time, and he said, this is ludicrous. I go over here, and this guy says one thing, and nobody can prove it, and this guy says another thing, and nobody can prove it, and the only thing that matters is how good a talker you are to tell people so you convince them in their minds, which has nothing to do with reality. Does that sound familiar to anybody? You can now be an embezzler, go to prison, be taken away from your ministry, and come out and half the world runs to you when you get out of prison at your first video. And some of the sons of men caused their women to drink a draught. So the commandment, the Torah, if there is no other piece, it wouldn't even be surprising to me that Elohim only said to Adam and Uah, fill the earth. We go to Noah. What did he say to Noah? Fill the earth. So I got a pretty strong sense, folks, through 5,000 years of human history and 2 of the greatest men, according to the biblical scripture anyways, and the main thing Elohim said to them was, have babies, not kill them. Does anybody understand if that's a true statement? I'm about to read to you what happens to people who began to stop the natural order of humanity to fill this earth. Again, I'm about to read it to you. Pay attention. And some of the men caused their women to drink a draught that would render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. Does anybody get that? I'm sorry, it just goes off like about 20 million nuclear bombs in my mind when I read that. Because, folks, if you haven't looked around at our society, that's where we are. Would it be that a doctor giving you a pill so you can kill a baby because you don't want to have to deal with it? Does that sound really so far-fetched now that you look at the history? We're doing the same things that these people came to, the same place in time. So why did they do it? Because of, look at that concept, because of their figures, and so they might not lose their beautiful appearance. So we want beautiful women and we want to have lots of sex, but we don't want to have any snuggling kids because it makes women's droop and it makes things stretch, and they ain't as pretty as they used to be. That's about the sum of it. And when the sons of men caused some of their women to drink, Zillah drank with them. Now you know why she was barren. And the childbearing woman appeared abominable in the sight of their men as widows, while their men lived, for to the barren ones only they were attached. So if you had a child, if you wanted a child, you were an outcast. As long as you wanted to whore around and worry about your fingernails and your makeup and your jewelry and digging for gold in somebody's billfold, as long as you wanted those things, man, you sure are pretty. Can I tell you, the internet's full of those today. And I don't mean just a little full. Looking for the same thing. Look how beautiful I am. What's your main, what do you want in life? Oh, well, I'm all about having fun and selfies. But think of this concept. And childbearing women appeared abominable in the sight of their men. So if you were a good woman, you were looked down on. If you were a trash woman, all the men loved you. Because I guess they knew they could have sex and not have to worry about raising your little snot-nosed kid. Does that ring any bells with anybody about the news? Because it sure did me. It's like I was in, I turned all the way back to Ben White Boulevard and Lamar Boulevard and the Kmart right next to Porter Junior High School. You know, you used to walk in there and, boy, they flipped that little switch and that little blue light went to flashing and the people hoarded to that blue light. It's a blue light special, friends. And in the end of days and years, when Zillah became old, Yehovah opened her womb. So he gave her forgiveness for what she had done. And as soon as he did that, she conceived and bore a son and called his name Tubal-Cain, saying, after I had withered away, have I obtained him from El Shaddai, Elohim, which is what they called him, Elohim, El Shaddai. And she conceived again and bore a daughter and called her name Naamah. For she said, after I had withered away, have I obtained pleasure and delight. And Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was leading him, and it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was with him. And while they were walking in the field, Cain, the son of Adam, advanced towards them. For Lamech was very old and could not see much. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was very young. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow, and with the arrows he smote Cain. Remember? What was the command? The command was, you are cursed, and anybody who does something to you, something happens to them also. And with the arrow he smote Cain, who was yet far off, and he slew him, for he appeared to them to be an animal. And the arrows entered Cain's body, although he was distanced from them, and he fell to the ground and died. And Yehovah requited Cain's evil according to his wickedness. Now, if any of you remember, what we read in the book of Jubilees is that his house fell on him and the rocks killed him because he had used a rock to kill. So this is one of those things where it's supposition. No matter which direction you go, it's supposition because there is no proof either way. So rather than get hung up on the fact that somewhere in recorded history, my gosh, we'll believe the New Testament like it's, and we know that that's a fake. Don't let that, what I'm trying to say is don't let these things, they're not meant to destroy you. Okay? You go, okay, well, I'll take that on advisement, and you keep walking. And Yehovah requited Cain's evil according to his wickedness, which he had done to his brother Havel, according to the word of Yehovah, which he had spoken. And it came to pass when Cain had died, that Lamech and Tubal-Cain went to the animal which they had slain, and they saw, and behold, Cain, their grandfather, was fallen dead upon the earth. And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. And in clapping his hands together, he struck his son and caused his death also. And the women of Lamech heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him from that day, because he slew Cain and Tubal-Cain. And the women of Lamech separated from him and would not hearken to him in those days. And Lamech came to his women, and he pressed them to listen to him about this matter. And he said to his woman Adah and Zillah, "Hear my voice, O women of Lamech. Attend to my words, for now you have imagined and said that I slew a man with my wounds, and a child with my stripes, for their having done no violence. But surely know that I am old and gray-headed, and that my eyes are heavy through age, and I did this thing unknowingly." And the women of Lamech listened to him in this matter, and they returned to him with the advice of their father Adam. But they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that Elohim's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men, to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil doings. So they knew that. Ponder that for a minute, man. Look around at our world at all that's going on. Isn't it really not so far-fetched that these women would say, well, you know, Elohim didn't give us any more children than what he did because he knew what he was already going to do. Was there a knowledge? Was there a supernatural knowledge, even if it was just kind of like sensing? You know, I've talked to people who could care less about what the Bible says about anything, and many of those people have almost as much fear as the ones who are fearful that do know something about the Bible. And I've asked some of them, so what is it that you're so concerned about? I don't know, man, just something ain't right in the cosmos. So it's not really that far-fetched to us. Elohim said to me that there is a famine coming. There's no question of that. It's really not hidden. There are a million things that validate that I'm tracking true, that word is true. You don't believe me? Just go read what the government's doing to your food supply. It's already happening. I mean, Walmart can't afford 7 foot of bread on an aisle that they used to have filled with bread that's 35 foot long. Why do you reckon that is? Why do you reckon that it's not all that unknown to go in a grocery store and not find something, some major thing? Friends, he's setting the stage, whether you know it or not. It has been set. I did some research on this 3-day thing, 3-day darkness. Sorrowful, there's a lot of preachers out there telling everybody that there's 3 days of darkness in the book of Revelation, but it's not so. It's a lie. First off, if you could believe that a prophecy written by a Roman was real in the first place. Okay? But it's not. Revelation 16 does not say a word. It says the moon will be darkened and the sun will be darkened and it will be as sackcloth. That's all it says. There's no 3 days in there. Although I know there's some really well-meaning Christian preachers that would like you to send them some big tithes because they told you that there's 3 days of darkness coming. I'd like to go read Revelation 16 and see that it says in 3 days will the sun be blackened. Not just, and the sun will be black as sackcloth. So you can take that, or you can accept and believe anything that you want to. That's obviously your free will. But I think that anybody with any wisdom and even more so that knows how to use it, most of the stuff I watch really shouldn't take you longer than about 6 minutes to figure out who this person is. And if they may tell you that they believe the Torah while they stand up there and they're looking to establish Christ, you might ought to wonder about that, friends. So let's see what happens. Adam, their father, is still alive, and he comes and talks to them. And he tells his women to go back to their husband. His women. But they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that Elohim's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men. I think my point for that little sidetrack is that I believe that there are many people who sense that Elohim's anger is turning against us. Has it ever happened before? That's a question. Is it a probability that there's even a possibility? Is there a probability that there's a possibility that Elohim may not be happy with the things that we're doing on this earth? I think it's a pretty good probability, and a whole lot more than just possible, that he's not happy. Is he unhappy with me? I have to live in this world. If Elohim loves me more than anybody else on the face of the earth, I still have to live in this earth, and it still vexes and affects me just like it vexes and affects you. So remember, be in the world but not of the world. He doesn't take you out of the world, friend. He just wants you to live differently than everyone else does. So Elohim's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil doing. So why, if Elohim brings fire on this earth to destroy this earth with a fervent heat, why would that happen? Because of his anger towards men for the way we have corrupted ourselves. I've said it from a place of stress. There is no fixing what's going on in America, friends. You can't. We're either, within 5 years probably, maybe quite sooner, we are either going to be a socialist country, or we are in the beginning throes of a national, but maybe even a worldwide civil war. When Vladimir Putin is more righteous than the President of the United States, friends, I don't know what God you're living under, but it ain't Elohim.
If these people back then corrupted the world, do you think we're not able to corrupt the world?
Absolutely. That's my point. I fully know that. I just want everybody else to come to that conclusion on their own. Here's the peace. He told you twice now why the first time he destroyed a third of the earth to go, hey guys, wake up. I ain't happy. Your behavior isn't okay. And now, okay, well, you wouldn't get that warning, so let me give you the final edict. And Mahalaleel, the son of Canaan, lived 65 years, and he begat Yared, and Yared lived 62 years, and he begat Hanuk. And that sets the stage to bring us up. Jubilees, as we go, we'll jump through because there's times we're looking for righteousness in the book of Jubilees, as well as we are looking for righteousness here. But here, I won't, because many of you have never heard this, there are some really strong principles that tie with the time in which we live in. Okay? Really profound things, friends. Look around at the earth. I said to someone, does it not concern you that they are right this very minute? In fact, I personally hate to say this, but I have kind of become to this place. I think personally, if you want to know the honest to goodness truth, we are already in the age and have been in the age of AI for a long time. For those of you who did not know, very soon now, Google is in the process of launching a new AI system, and that AI system is going to be given total freedom to research every conversation you've ever had on the computer, so that it can better know how to answer for you. That doesn't send off any alarm bells? Wow. So we have come that far, and guess what we're going to do for the first while until we realize that we really are in the Matrix, and we are. The Matrix wasn't a joke, it's real. Before we come to consciousness that we are in the Matrix, they are going to so inundate and overwhelm the human minds. Our 90-something children, the ones that graduated that can't pass a 4th grade test, but they have a high school diploma, which this United States is full of. It's funny that the Amish people with reading, writing, and arithmetic in 8 years can do what a multi-billion-dollar education system can't do in 12 years, which is create functioning people who know how to use math. It was never meant to make people smart. It was meant to dumb them down. And now AI will tell you what to do, and you will be happy to do it here very shortly, because that's the truth. So you say, well, I'm scared because there's so much changing and so much being revealed. Listen, you should be. And yet on the other side, if you are looking for Elohim and looking for Elohim's heart, they will never be able to change that. You have, and you will watch even more and even more drastic changes come on through Christianity, friends. It's one of the biggest propagating machines there is of lies. And it is getting worse. I mean, would you have ever thought that Christianity, of course, I'm sure for most of you, if you know and understand it at all, then you probably never had any idea that it was all concocted by the Romans in the first place. And they certainly weren't going to tell you, since it is the religion of Rome still. Hello. Every Protestant that exists was a Catholic first. So there's a reason why they call it Roman Catholicism. Because it's Roman. So that hasn't changed in 2,000 years. So I hope you guys will understand it's really important to your salvation. It's important to your salvation that you understand Elohim had a path and he called it a simple path. And it's one of the Hebrew truths that ends up in the book of Revelation, one of the few. And it's so out of place in context. Revelation 22:14 is so out of context and place, and they couldn't figure anywhere else to put it. So they painted you a bunch of, you'll be anathema, you'll be cursed, you'll be horrible if you don't declare this name. And then we get to the end, and what the true follower said in Matthew about the Torah comes through once again. So have you ever watched a movie and you can hear it and then it blips and you were watching the movie and watching stuff go on, but the sound blipped, and then they pop back and your mind filled in all of that distance even though you really didn't know what was said there? That's what we have done in the New Testament. I used to ask people, man, all you guys are standing around here telling me that the Torah, the law, which proves their ignorance, but the law is done away with. But here your own leader tells you in the book of Matthew that the Torah will never be done away with. And then you're told again in the book of Revelation that the only one who are saved are those who keep the Torah you say was thrown away. And nobody puts that together that they might be living in a cult. And I'm not even talking a positive cult. I'm talking a lying, cheating, stealing lie. And that never occurs to anybody. I'm just going, man, Father, did I get dropped into this earth from Pluto? Because it just seems like nobody else is getting the preponderance of what is being sold to us, but you keep finding these glimpses of true Torah believers. And of course, then thank goodness for scholars who don't care a thing about religion. They're a huge asset Elohim is using. Elohim has never cared about religion. He's not a religious Elohim. He's a truth Elohim. That's why he said, I give no respect of persons. That theme goes through the whole of scriptures, that Elohim will not judge according to persons. Some of you probably never stopped and thought enough to recognize that if you're a Christian, even using that term about yourself is respect of persons. I used to hear them all the time. Christians are saved. Man, come get saved. You're a Christian now. And I went, so that mean God's going to change his word and he's going to judge us different, right? Because we're like Christians now? And then, of course, the answer is always the same. Oh, well, I didn't say that. Well, what, dear friend, are you saying? He's either a righteous judge who judges according to his words, or he's not. Can't be both. He can't be righteous and unrighteous. Neither can we. You can't be partially right and partially wrong. Although we find ourselves in that situation in the midst of transition, whichever one you serve is the one who is your God, either rightness or wrong. Wow, is it really that black and white? I'm just wondering. Is it really that black and white? That we really either are okay with him or we're not. And there's no middle ground. There's no gray areas. There's no room to be like the world, but I say that I'm different, so I'm different. Maybe wokeism was here a long time before we knew it. Maybe flowing was here a lot longer than we thought. So I hope you guys will think, man, we need to open our minds. We need to begin to think right now. This time is critical. I'm telling you guys, it's coming, and it ain't gonna be you ain't gonna deal with it as easy as many of us believe that we are. And I'm not a fear monger. I don't have any reason for us to be fearful. We'll make it until the day that Elohim chooses for us not to make it. And guess what? After that day, you ain't going to make it no matter what you do anyway. So we might as well spend our time placing our value in what Elohim says so we have a clue about what's coming. It's funny, you can hear more sense in the world today, at least parts of the world, than you hear in religion. That's a scary thought. So I hope you guys will grab a hold of. I hope that you'll open your mind and put them glasses on I keep talking about, which are the eyes of the Torah. How does all of this relate? Yah gave 10 words that are supposed to encompass every action of every human that's ever lived on the face of this earth. And if you fail in one of those, you're lost. Man, I'm telling you, there was a society that existed 2,500 years ago where they knew that. And not only did they know it, they believed it. So much so they would go to the death, which is why I showed you once again the book of Maccabees. The Romans did not want you to see and read the story of the Maccabees. Because if you saw how those people were, you also saw how Yeshua and Yehukanan and Yaakov were. They went to the death for the Torah, friend. They didn't go to the death for Christ. They would have rejected him openly. Share some bread and salt with your brethren. There's a significance there, just in case. So for those of you who have said something to me already. So, blessings. I hope you guys got something out of it. It's a trying time, wonderful time if you're walking with Elohim, because you're going to get to see things that people have been waiting for thousands of years to see. Might have been nice if I wasn't part of the generation that got to see it, but such is the time. If I was put here by him, I was put here exactly when I need to be. And you too. So worship him like you'll never get another opportunity. Live your life like he's actually standing there with you, because he is. Shalom. Let's pray. Father, bless you today. Thank you for your wonderful goodness, your mercy, your amazing love that you gave us these words. But it's up to us to cut through. It's up to us to overcome societal brainwashing and religious brainwashing, and to begin to look at you functioning all around us. Well, you want us to be successful. That I do know. So I bless you today. I thank you for your marching orders that you give to those people that are following you, that we are to go forth. We are to teach your ways and your rightness, no matter how unpopular it is. I bless you tonight, Father. I ask your hand be in protection over those who are walking. Maybe they've just heard the truth and they're not sure about a lot of things. Certainly, we have all been in that place. So I ask you that your will be done, and that we put ourselves in a place where we can fulfill your will for you. I bless you today, and I thank you for all your goodness. Amen. Dave? brothers and sisters, shalom on your journey to the truth. I hope with all of my heart that I in some way can be a quinan to help expose truth that might help you to walk the ancient paths. Shalom to each and every one of you.